Okay, so when did I go to
Yeah, so
single purchase products? Yeah, I guess again, in my long roundabout way of getting here, just thinking about where there was a need, where there were products that didn't exist, things that I had always wanted for myself, the next were probably one of the next ones, which I had the experience of studying with Jerry Berganzi, who's a lovely nutcase who is a complete gear fanatic. And I remember him coming to the shop and be like, "Man," this is my Jerry Berganzi impression, in case you're wondering. Like, "Man, what? Let's take that balanced action neck and put it on this Mark 6. We got to try it, man. Let's do it." I'd be like, all right, I got apparently
okay.
nothing better to do, so let's make this happen. And that was the first time I really realized, holy shit, like the neck
And
has a significant effect. I never even thought about it before. Um, and at the time, and there still is, there's a truly amazing craftsman named Kim Bach who was also really coming out as being, educating people in a way on how important the neck was and doing these handcrafted necks. And I was like, that's amazing. And I had one. I thought it was awesome. But I was thinking again of shifting my business towards direct to consumer and trying to, push things through. Just for me, I didn't want to have dealers because I knew what a nightmare I had experienced being a dealer for other products and the
yeah,
inflexibility that gives the manufacturer in terms of promotions and yeah, it's I won't bore you, but Boston Sax Shop has and always will be direct sale for North
yeah,
America. We have 20 dealers internationally now, but that gives me so much more freedom to not only give a lot back to my artists, not only well, I mean financially, but also, but whatever. I won't go into all that. All I'm saying is like with the neck thing, I thought, well, this is great. Like obviously this is a trend. People are starting to get into necks, but
yeah.
we have this very high price point, custom kind of thing. There's room for something more mid tier, and that's when I came up with the idea for the heritage neck. Which ended up, the first couple years, I had a huge problem with the manufacturer. Who ended up, ripping off the IP for the original design and selling it to other people. So I
Yeah.
had to re-engineer the neck. So now there's a second generation, which fortunately this relationship is solid, and we don't have enough time to get into
No one's
the
got
the
joy.
fun experience of manufacturing halfway across the world and what that looks and feels like. That we can save for part two. So yeah. And that was a great success because, again, in my opinion, and in our very weird niche market, it solved the problem. Like it gave people something that felt and is very premium, but because of the manufacturing techniques, they didn't have to worry about like ordering five, because it's not, a completely handmade product where there's that level of variance. And yeah, I just kind of went from there. And the next were a success. And then I was like, fuck it, let's make mouthpieces. So we got into mouthpieces, and it's just everything is kind of stair stepped into the next product, if that makes sense. And I've
No.
always felt like if something failed miserably, then okay, like we got to set back and pause and reset and figure out how to make this work before we move on to the next one. But I've been very fortunate that for some reason people really like shit that we make, and everything is kind of just like
Yeah.
ratcheted up a little bit more.
Oh, no, I got you. Are there, are you gonna move on to like pads and resonators and weighted screws? What makes you fine? Like, I also don't want want you to feel like you're going into a hoopla of like, well, no interest in any of those things. But
Oh no, I don't. I Well, because here's another thing, right? Is that it's very common to have, I think I heard this term recently on again trying to sound more like I actually run a business. I listen to these business podcasts, and there's this term called, I think it's called venturitis,
yeah,
which is where a lot of brands that become popular will just keep pumping out more shit, expecting the same result, and at some point you saturate your own market. You give them too many options,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
can definitely think of one or two in particular, like mouthpiece manufacturers. You go to their website, you're like, oh yeah, like I'm fucked. Like there's no way I'm not going to spend like $5,000 to try the
yeah.
six pieces that I want. There's too many options. So for me, You know, I do have a couple other products that are in the works right now, but I'm always reminding myself not to like, you know, like I make fun shit like, you know, mouthpiece bags and you know, staff
Yeah,
paper, and that's just fun. Those
yeah,
aren't like high investment, you know, or the hero products for BSS. But like I can tell you now that I don't ever have an intention of making another ligature design. I want to
mm,
finish up that design for soprano and baritone, and I'm having a good time like figuring out different kind of, you know, limited edition finishes for those products. But like I'm not going to design another heritage neck because I think it also goes against my my principle, which is like I'm going to do it and do it as best as I possibly can, and then that's it. Like we don't need like there, in my opinion, for me, for the way that I play, I don't need another neck design.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I that's it. Like sure, I'll fuck around with the finishes just because it's fun and it gets people reinterested
Yeah, and it's like, ooh,
in a
yeah,
yeah, right. Ooh, black rhodium. You know,
yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that it does anything because I'm not on that
But
wavelength.
it
But
does
like,
look a certain type of way. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the aesthetic. Like I feel like the aesthetic half the time is almost like once you get to a certain level, you want functionality and you want to feel secure in what you're playing. But
yeah,
I mean,
yep,
why
yep.
not like the way it looks
Unfortunately,
too?
yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. And in that regard, like I really try and draw from influences outside of this industry. And ironically, besides some of the technical aspects, like we were talking about latches or on cases or handles on cases or like, you know, the ergonomic things, like a lot of when going back to earlier, we were talking about like the things that I wanted to change with the products that I was selling. A lot of it was aesthetic. It's like, oh, why did they do gold on this? Come on, do silver. It's not the 80s anymore. So like, you know,
It's not the
for
80s.
better,
Oh,
right. But
yeah.
like for better and for worse, yeah, like we buy with our eyes a lot of the time. And if it happens to be high quality on top of that, you know, that's a 1-2 punch, and that's what I try and deliver. But like aesthetics are super important to me. And I draw on the automotive industry, I draw on, you know, the luxury watch industry, again, fashion for the inspiration for, you know, for the aesthetic and the packaging. You know, that's been a huge push this year with like really make all the packaging of the products coming out feel really premium, and kind of match the level of the products themselves, which is a whole other, you know, it's the whole Apple thing. But yeah, I'm not planning on. I want to keep the core of the products, you know, the core of the products, and then do special editions and maybe, you know, I'd love to see more collaborations in this industry. I think that's like such a stupid waste that we don't do that. You know, like
Yeah.
every other industry, you look at footwear, I mean, anything, right? You know, look at
Right.
Supreme, right? Like there's so many opportunities for brands to kind of work together, to be mutually beneficial. And like it just never happens. Everybody hates each other in this industry.
Yeah.
Nobody talks to each other. So
There's this constant like cycle of slicing the pie as opposed to making the pie bigger. Like
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I see so much opportunity. I mean, for again, not even collaborations just between saxophone brands, but like, you know, I'd love to see more lifestyle, you know, connections between, you know, between brands, because it's just such a missed opportunity. It could be so cool. And again, like you said, develop a wider market, you know, actually enlarge the overall market share of people that are interested in saxophone as opposed to just trying to sell to the same like 20,000 people that are on social media. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
we'll see.